I pass the floor to Gard Jameson now. He is our next host. Thank you very, very much.
Well, it's the final hour, and here we are, 134 participants. I've just been kind of going down the names, as I know Mo has as well, and just feeling the connections. We have Africa here, we have Europe here, we have Asia, we have North America, we have South America. Who knows? There may be some penguins checking in on this one. But it's extraordinary that what we have here, and Australia, I'm seeing Rob Cricket come up here. We have Australia, we have New Zealand. It's extraordinary. We represent a global revelation. And I thought it appropriate at the end of this educational experience to bring on board the presidents of the three primary organizations. There are many organizations, but the three primary organizations, Urantia Foundation, Urantia Association International, and the Urantia Book Fellowship. And I thought it appropriate that we get, if you will, a kind of visionary statement from them in the midst of this crisis, with them sharing from their souls how they're seeing things and how we as a movement might come together. And how appropriate it was for Collins to be the last person on the line, because you may not know this, but in 2050, Africa will be the most populated continent on the planet. And Collins, you are a pioneer. You're an inspiration to many, many of us. So thank you for your participation, and for your brothers from Ghana, your brothers from Senegal, your brothers from throughout the continent, and Guy for your work with the folks there in Africa. Thank you. So we had intended this originally to be part of the international conference. Again, as many of you know, we've been having more and more international conferences co-sponsored by all the major organizations. And we had one planned this coming summer in Canada, and we're all just a little sad that it's not happening. But we sort of took this situation as a springboard to ask the three presidents to come and share with us a moment. So each one of them will be sharing 5 to 7 minutes of their sort of vision for the revelation, kind of where we're at, origin, history, destiny. And we'll open it up after they've finished to your questions and answers. And what I want to say is I'm so proud of all three of these gentlemen. And yes, unfortunately, they're all white, they're all male, they're all kind of North American. But this is going to change. We're going to globalize. But I'm so proud of each and every one of them, because in their own ways, they have taken huge responsibility for the management of this revelation with all of us as part of their team. And so I'm pleased to introduce these individuals. I want to just sort of give you a brief intro. So first of all, my brother Mo Siegel, who I've known forever, and we often say tethered. We have a soul connection, and Mo has been the president of Urantia Foundation for a number of years now. And as anybody who knows Mo knows, that when Mo gets involved with a project, it's not just with both feet, it's also with his hands and his heart and his mind. And Mo is married to the beautiful culinary goddess Jen, and he has lots of children. I won't go into all the children, but he has lots of children, and he's just my brother. And then Geoff Theiss, who is, gosh, he's a Gen Xer. I think he's a Gen Xer. He's 32 years old. He's the youngest president of your Urantia Book Fellowship ever. He's a second generation student of the book. He just 6 months ago became a father. So let's everybody give him a reaction. Clap, clap, clap. And he is also a full-time chemical engineer. He's a manager where he works. And we're just so grateful that Geoff took on the responsibility and is the president of Urantia Book Fellowship. And last but not least, our dear Chris Wood. Chris Wood, taking the torch, I think it was from Gaetan with the Urantia Association International, and has incredibly managed a global organization, global reach. And Chris is an incredible father. We often see his children on Zoom, and he's an incredible father, incredible husband, and he's an air controller. Some of you may not know that about Chris Wood, but he actually tells those airplanes in the sky how to get to the runway. And so he's been doing that actually in our movement. And this Urantia Marathon of Education was the inspiration of Chris Wood and his team. And so, as Stephen Colbert would say, tip of the hat, wag of the tail to all three of you. And I'm going to start with Geoff, if Geoff would step forward and give us 5 to 7 minutes.
Well, thank you, Gard. And you didn't tell us what order we were going in, so thanks for picking me out first, of course. Vision. I mean, there's really not much I can contribute more than what the Urantia book already contributes to vision. I think to help understand about how the fellowship and vision interconnect, those who don't know how our general council works, we are a deliberative body, and there were themes talked about in the previous presentation that I think are important as it relates to the values of how we try to work together as a service group, which is using the mechanism of group wisdom to guide our teamwork. You know, people think about the role of president as some sort of authoritative figure, but in the fellowship organization, the president doesn't get a vote in the executive body. So it's a different form of leadership that we try to practice that's inspired, I believe, by trying to understand our role in the universe, trying to understand how each of us can uniquely contribute to serving together. And you know, I resonated with so much of what was just spoken about in the last presentation. Luis, the role everyone plays. You know, to me, as you guys were speaking, I whipped together some quotes that were just presently on my mind, and maybe I'll share them because, again, I can't provide much more vision than what the Urantia book already provides. Sharing screen here. You know, and I align heavily with Marvin's influence in my thinking as it relates to paper 87.7 as a guidepost for us. Just these three quotes to me are really valuable, right? That every new religion of truth has given rise to a new cult, and even the restatement of the religion of Jesus must develop a new and appropriate symbolism. And next, this element of the next paragraph, which is the new cult must provide supreme goals of living, which are both temporal and eternal, social and spiritual. And I'll read this whole last paragraph as the role of revelation in the expansion of religion, which is that evolved religion rests wholly on faith, but revelation has the additional assurance of its expanded presentation of the truths of divinity and reality, and the still more valuable testimony of the actual experience, which accumulates in consequence of the practical working union of the faith of evolution and the truth of revelation. And to me, that's the most incredible opportunity as a community organization, right? Is that, yes, the Urantia book is this expanded presentation of truth and divinity, of truth of divinity and truth of reality, but the still more valuable thing is each one of you here and the learning and growing that comes from our shared testimony as students of the revelation. And so the role in serving as global organizations is a lot of the times administrative, and trying to minimize the weight of that administrative work is always a challenge. But I think modern technology is going to help us with that a lot. But the real focus for me is empowering that testimony, right? How by disseminating the Urantia book and its teachings, by having opportunity to be in relationship with one another, it empowers that testimony of our experience of the expansion of these truths of divinity and reality. Maybe that's my 7 minutes.
Geoff, that was fabulous. We will have questions and answers later. So everybody, if you're listening to this, think about questions for all three. But if you want to specifically address a question to one or the other, you're welcome to, but we'll try to take questions for all three. So Geoff, thank you so much. And I think I hear a baby in the background. What can we say, but thank you for stepping up. I mean, most of us, when we were raising babies, we weren't presidents of anything. We were raising babies. So thank you for stepping up and taking responsibility in this revelation. So next, the next youngest member of this trio would be Chris Wood. Chris?
Thank you, Gard. I say thank you to Geoff's wife. I can speak with personal experience here. The time I have spent organizing and in these meetings was time I should have been doing the dishes, time I should have been cleaning up the kitchen, time I should have been hosing off the children. Alice has taken a oversized load of all of those duties for those last few years, and it wouldn't be possible without her. We should all, every organization should have an Alice just to help balance the workload. But that said, thank you all. I'm going to try to spend 2 minutes each on how we've come to the place we're at, where we're at, and then a vision for the future. Urantia Association International was born to be an international organization, and we have taken that seriously. And if you asked me right now, what type of organization are we? What are our demographics? I would have to say we are a Latin American organization. More than half of our international leaders on our International Service Board have roots in Latin America now. But that said, we come from all over the world. So the 7 standing committees, the chairs of our 7 standing committees that serve on our International Service Board come from 7 different countries on 5 different continents. I think we combined speak maybe 8 languages, although the number of languages Gabriel speaks is up in the air, and he seems to always have a new one that he forgot he spoke yesterday. So we truly are built to be this type of international group, and it's how we've been able to move forward. And I remember a couple of years ago, the last time I was able to sit down and have a good talk with Paul Snyder, actually, it was at I think it was at a Christmas party at the foundation. And I was able to tell him about the international movement and how well organized we are, and how we have these now continental coordinators on Africa. Collins is our African continental coordinator, and in Latin America and in Europe, and about the way that the organization has developed. And so it was really lovely being able to have that good talk with Paul. But that's how we have developed to this point. I'm short-sighted, and so I sometimes wonder if everything that has come before 2 months ago is now deep history. And we'll know in a couple years exactly how we will judge this COVID-19 and if this is really a mark in the sand or not. But it feels like 5 months ago when we had the Nigerian conference, that feels like years ago now. We've now seen the cancellation of 2 major conferences. We've seen the rise of these video conferences and the rise of these 24-hour events that I think even after we return to the new normal will be a new part of our ongoing services. I'm now misquoting Gard, who was probably accurately quoting someone else, but he said that in these times of upheaval that organizations become one of 3 types of organizations. They either go into survival mode, which means they're just trying to figure out how to stay open next week. I have a friend who just got furloughed from the American Cancer Society. they go into a holding pattern, a static mode of just trying to wait until the crisis is over and then they can start up again. Or they can go into service mode and they become more active. And we have tried in the association to become that type of organization, to be more active right now. I think part of what we do as organizations, I often view the community as a spinning top, and it's spinning around. And Urantia Book says that truth is dynamic, it's always moving. Love is dynamic, it's always in motion. And God, and the Urantia revelation is always in motion, it's spinning like a top, right? And so what the organizations bring to the Urantia community is balance. We bring stability, is another word for that. Because without the stability, the top will topple over. And that's what we can provide right now, is that stability. And so we've been talking for decades about the importance of study groups and how important it is to make sure that our study groups are strong. And we realize that now more than ever because our international conferences are canceled. Our continental conferences are canceled. Our national conferences are canceled. The core of the Urantia community right now is the local study group, and they're functioning on Zoom. These local associations, these local societies are the stability of those organizations is so important. And that's what we can bring as organizations, is stability and balance. And part of that stability is the ability to pass leadership off from one person to another, to make sure that it's being passed from one generation to another of leadership, so that there's a mosaic of voices coming in. I'm gonna share my screen real fast. And what the talk I'm gonna give should be, I'm gonna say, I don't know, 5 minutes, but we're gonna do it faster. There's the top, the spinning top, which is our Urantia community, right? So imagine, if you will, this is a view of that top from, you're looking at it from the top, right? You see it's always in motion, it's constantly spinning. I wanna talk about the different layers of that spinning top that we have. The innermost layer, the layer that's most important for stability, is the protection and distribution of the Urantia book itself. Protecting the text, making sure it's not altered, making sure it's distributed throughout the world. That's one of the most important things, if not the most important thing, that our community does from one generation to another. There's the education of Urantia book students for Urantia book students. And we see this in our education committees. It's in these 24-hour events. It's in our conferences. It's the work that we do to help build up our community, to make us stronger and better able to serve. Outward facing then, we have information outreach. We've seen a lot of this with the expansion of YouTube videos that are coming out, and the interfaith work that is happening, just getting more information out there about the Urantia community and letting everyone know that we are a normal part of the religious balance of the world. Religious outreach. My wife does this with her church. It's Urantia book students going and working with other religions and lifting them up without making them into Urantia book readers themselves, right? We're not trying to take a Christian church and turn it into a Urantia church. We're trying to make it the best Christian church in all of Christendom by introducing our Urantia beliefs into it. And we see this with all the religions of the world, that we want to just have some religious outreach and help spread the teachings without necessarily spreading the paperweight. There's social outreach. We see this with the works of J.J. Benitez, and he's maybe the person most responsible for bringing more people to the Urantia book than anyone else in the world, possibly. People bringing the Urantia teachings into the television and movies and out into the culture in general. And this is an area we can work on. And then finally, a new philosophy of living. And I take those words from Jeffrey Waddles, who talks a lot about this, but actually uplifting and changing the way that we view life, and as George was talking about earlier, the way that we will be viewing death and the way our whole experience is viewed, right? A new philosophy of living. So right now, as a Urantia community, we're really pretty solid in these first two layers, and we need to make sure those layers are protected, but we're pretty solid here. I imagine the work of the next decade, 2 decades, maybe, who knows, 5 decades, is solidifying and getting more projects in these outer rings, more religious outreach, more social outreach, more work in transforming our philosophy of living as entire people. That's what I think that's my vision. And by my, I mean, we've worked on this as a group of Urantia Association. We came together and we talked about our 50-year plan, and this presentation came out of that talk. But this is our vision for what we will be working on for basically the rest of, my life. And it's good to have goals, I think. So I'm sure that's my 7 minutes. Thank you, everybody.
Chris, thank you. That was awesome. Geoff, that was awesome. Thank you so much. Boy, I really appreciate that. Concentric circles. I don't know where you got concentric circles from, but that vision is a very powerful vision. And again, thank you for being willing as a father, as an employee, as a husband at your young age to step in and take responsibility for this revelation. So lastly, I'm going to introduce my brother Mo. And Mo, we look forward to hearing from you. Take it away.
Thank you, Gard, Geoff, and Chris. By the way, for all of you that may not know this, the three of us meet just about every quarter and talk about our organizations and how we can help one another. And it's been terrific working with these. I think if you combine both of their ages, they're still younger than I am. It's really nice to be with them. Bobby and Marta and Leela, Katerina are on this call. They've all lost their significant loved one in this recent period. And you should know we're sending our love to you. And you all know, I mean, they know that the Father in heaven loves their lost spouse more than they do, more than we do. But there's a loss and a loneliness. And so just a word of love to the four of you. And I saw my friend, I got to just a shout out. There's so many friends here for years ago, but I was just thinking of Janelle Belnicki the other day, and I saw her name on here. Hi, Janelle. Gard, you asked what this period of time means and some reflection on that. Then I'm going to talk about Urantia Foundation, but if you don't mind, I want to read a quote. And this is what really struck me during the resurrection appearances recently, Easter time, walking with the two brothers down the road, the two brothers from Emmaus. You all know that story, but these were some of the words that Jesus spoke. Have you never read in the scriptures concerning this day of salvation for Jew and Gentile, where it says that in him shall all the families of the earth be blessed, that he will hear the cry of the needy and save the souls of the poor who seek him, that all nations shall call him blessed, that such a deliverer shall be as a shadow of a great rock in a weary land, that he will feed the flock like a true shepherd, gathering the lambs in his arms and tenderly carrying them in his bosom, that he will open the eyes of the spiritually blind and bring the prisoners of despair out into full liberty and light, that all who sit in darkness shall see the great light of eternal salvation, that he will bind up the brokenhearted, proclaim liberty to the captives of sin, and open up the prison to those who are enslaved by fear and bound by evil, that he will comfort those who mourn and bestow upon them the joy of salvation in the place of sorrow and heaviness, that he shall be the desire of all nations and the everlasting joy of those who seek righteousness. In this time and in all times, that hope is just, that promise is so good. It doesn't get better. Onto Urantia Foundation. Thank you all that support us. There are so many people that help Urantia Foundation exist. I know that for many of you, we're in your prayers. There are so many volunteers that are involved in our organization, whether it's the translators, the educators, the book distribution people, Tamara working constantly for the revelation. Hang on a minute, I'm going to change my screen just a smidge. People in reader services, people that keep the building together. And by the way, we love the fellowship and the UAI using 533. If you can see me on a full screen, you see that behind me, there's Bruce Johnson behind me, but the forum room that we really love sharing. Urantia Foundation is happy to work with all the organizations. We feel united, that there is not a divided family, but a united family. And from every trustee and associate trustee and all the people that work with us, we are dedicated to loving one another as a community and helping one another with this in our lives, in our personal lives, and with the revelation. I'm going to share my screen. Whoops. So I'm not going to talk about the past or even really much about the present today. I want to talk about the future. But this is the cover of our new annual report, and it's a global commitment. And I'm listening to Chris, and Chris is talking about the number of people in Latin America in the UAI, and there's people on this call from all over the world. And at the foundation, it's really our job, getting the book out into the world and supporting the world community the best we can. And so we've made a dedicated commitment from being the organization that really grew up at 533 back when there was a small handful of people. And we were really a North American organization forever. Topic. And keeping the Urantia book relevant to the next generations. It's not easy to get to the younger generations with a big, thick book. We're going to do our best. And this also relates to projects like the revision, the new revision of the Spanish book. They want a new cover. They want a cover that relates to their community and to a lot of younger people, the next generation. So we want to be open-minded and reach out to that younger group of people, the next generation. And this is pretty simple, free downloads, getting the Urantia book and all the translations on the internet and mobile devices. We're about ready to launch an Android app. We count all the free downloads when we look at the books and how they're penetrating the world and look at them from where they are going in the world. The next of the 7 goals is raising money. And we're not raising money for ourselves. We do have an annual budget, and we have to meet our annual budget with donations. But we've put together a program called the Revelation Bridge. And Dr. Sadler and the Hales family really endowed the next generation of readers with the building. The Hales Foundation has been so generous, and we want to bridge to the next generations. And there's just this huge body of baby boomers that are leaving the planet. We want to raise millions of dollars and have that money there, because it's not going to be easy for Chris and Geoff's generation to raise money. So we want to pass on, one of the things from the foundation is money for future generations. The next point was the going global. I'll just say it's going global. And we want the trustees, we want to be more informed. We want people coming to our meetings that tell us what's going on in the world. And as I said, we would like to be a much more global organization. Translations, you all know that that's our job, and we're dedicated to it. There's between Marilyn Kulicki and George DuPont leading the team. There are all these translators. I don't know, what are we up to? Gard 20 translations. The new translations coming on in the future are going to be prioritized. We only have a limited amount of money, but I would bet you that by the year 2030 or 2035, 80% of the planet will be able to read the Urantia book in their own native tongue. And then getting those books out into the world, whether it's probably going to be digital, just like this meeting, it's going to be digital. We will print books in some countries, but in a lot of countries, we just can't. And it'll be a lot easier for people to use their Android app or their Apple app to read the book. Governance. We've got 5 trustees today. We want 7 trustees and we want 9 trustees. We want them from diverse cultures. The associate trustees, same thing. We're concerned about gender. Our board is really better these days, and for a long time, having women trustees, not just men trustees. So as we go forward, we want to have diverse cultures and gender, and we'd also like to get some younger people involved with us, and on the trustee level and the associate trustee level. And the last point here is putting together an advisory team. We want to do a really good advisory team that come in and out of our meetings and help us understand the global needs of the book. Gard could speak a lot more to the education committee, but our objective is to expand cosmic consciousness and enhance spiritual perception. And there's 2 ways. A lot of you that have gone to some of the retreats that are done before the conferences know about the programs of prayer and meditation and worship that go on. That's the inner work. And then there's the outer work, things like UBIS, the Urantia Education Center, helping with the UAI and the fellowship on conferences. Anything we can do to further education. And Chris talked about study groups, and we're finding a new study group these days, the ones on Zoom, and our dedication to study groups remains strong. And the last point is our digital outreach goal. And we want to become, we'd like to be a lot more modern. I know we started in a quiet little room, the forum, and it was a small number of people. And today there's just this huge body of digital. And I got to tell you, not all that many of our team are all that digital. So we are hoping to enlist a lot more people, and Tamara's been doing that. There's a number of projects she's been working on that is a much more digital related world. So that is where Urantia Foundation is going. We go our way in peace. We want to work with peace and love and support everybody. And thank you for giving me a chance to talk. And I don't know, Gard, if you have anything else you would like to say.
So please go ahead and list your questions. I'm going to start it off with, Chris alluded to the fact that perhaps this COVID-19 is a reset moment for our entire community. And Les also chimed in at one point and said, what are the specific things you are doing within the organization to foster unity, as we heard earlier in the quote? Can you speak to that? And I will go with Geoff first, and then Chris, and then the old guy, Mo.
I'm sorry, Gard, I got a little confused by your intro there. I thought this was a question for Chris.
No, this is Chris sort of alluded to it, that perhaps this COVID-19 is a reset moment, not only for our community, but for our planet. And so in this reset moment, can you speak to specifically how we can foster what Les and others have shared over the time in the chat room, a greater unity within our community? And then Julian McGarry is next after this.
Well, the word unity sometimes gets conflated with coordinated working harmony. And so in terms of unity and this type of event, participating in it as a family of organizations, that is unity. Sharing access to each other's resources, continuing communication, practicing working together. I think the harder challenge is this temporal compromise, which is dealing with nuts and bolts and structures and governances, and educating on how to work together as a team. And so I think the more that we keep practicing working together as a team, it will just reinforce the underlying truth of our unity spiritually.
Yeah, Geoff, thank you. And you and Mo and Chris are having periodic calls. What is it, once a quarter, Chris? When do you talk to each other?
Quarterly.
Yeah, go ahead, Chris. You're next.
So I imagine that we are going to come out of this COVID-19 era, whenever we do come out of it, as changed as a world, honestly. I mean, I think we've had the last few years, we've seen the growth of secularism throughout the world. And, you know, I am convinced these things are, you know, go back and forth like a pendulum, and we've had a swing after a decade or 2 decades of internationalism and the growth of the European Union and the growth of trade deals across Latin America and across Africa. We are now had this pendulum swing back toward more secularism, or secularism, and I should say, you know, nationalism. And I think that this is probably, I mean, I hope and I believe that this is the swing back toward growth toward internationalism, and, you know, the growth of this idea that just because this man's an Iraqi doesn't mean he's not my brother, right? I think that will be the outcome of this. I'm by the way, just a hopeless optimist. Everyone thinks they're a realist. I am not. I am an optimist, and it sinks me every day. But I would rather be optimistic and disappointed than the other way around.
It seems to be good for your health. Yeah. No?
Yeah.
Urantia Foundation does not want to fight with anybody. Just want that totally clear. We want to support everyone the best we can. And we've been sponsoring, helping with the conferences. And there's been a request for us to help provide resources to do secondary works in Latin America when the new translation, and not the new translation, the new revision is done. Don't hesitate to write us a note and say, can you sponsor this project or that project? We may not be able to, we may not have funds, it may not be on our mission, but it may be. And we would like to help and support not only all the organizations, but individuals.
Well, thank you so much. And everybody on the call knows that this is a co-sponsored event. Urantia Book Fellowship, Urantia Association International, and the Urantia Foundation, along with Urantia University Institute. And I want you all to know that on May 30th, the Urantia Book Fellowship will be putting together, with David Kulicki at the helm of the Education Committee, another virtual conference that will be co-sponsored by all 4 organizations. So we who are, if you will, education chairs and involved with education for the various organizations, we are actively taking these steps toward unity through these educational opportunities. And then last, I want to say on July 11th, there will be a virtual online spiritual retreat, again, co-sponsored by all 4 organizations. So Julian, you have your hand raised.
Hello, Gard. Thank you very much. Hello, everyone. I'm Julian McGarry from Tasmania in Australia, and it's a pleasure to be here. And I want to start off by congratulating all 3 presidents on such a marvelous job. And this venue, this occasion has been a real blessing to us. I just want to briefly make some comments about the interface between the Urantia organisations and the wider world, or our public. And the Urantia book itself makes it very clear that the most powerful unifying force that the world has ever seen is the religion of Jesus. And that's a very powerful statement. It's something that really rings in my ears. And I think that we kind of need to understand that we have an important work to do that Jesus made very clear, preaching the gospel, but also living the gospel, and that would have an extraordinary effect on our neighbours. Presenting them with a book doesn't seem to go down so well, but when they see Christ-like behaviour accompanied with that message of the fatherhood of God and the brotherhood of the human race. It is a very powerful message, and the human race is incredibly receptive to that right now. Never before has it been so receptive. And I think we've got to grasp this opportunity to, as we've seen in a couple of wonderful presentations about interfaith, there's an amazing opportunity for us as organisations to engage in this work. We don't even have to mention the book. Not that we're afraid to mention it, but we don't have to, because the message itself is so powerful and loving and unifying. So just want to make that little comment and hope that might guide our future decisions. Thank you.
Julian, that was just perfect. And I don't see any other questions. If you have a question, please ask it. But I will, at this moment, I will make a plug for, Julian, forgive me, another book. The book is called The Untold Story of Jesus. And Mo put this together at Truth Book. He also, as many of you know, created so many paintings around the life story of Jesus. And it's an extraordinary thing to give to friends. They may not be ready for the Urantia book, but Julian, as you say, so many people are ready for the life and teachings of Jesus. And this book has done an extraordinary job through the paintings and through the narrative to really lay it out and to gently introduce the fifth epoch of Revelation. So Mo, thanks. You want to say a word on that?
Well, in a broader scope, I would, and that is that we are supportive of secondary works. And that book you just saw comes from Urantia Press, which is a label of Urantia Foundation, but not under the title Urantia Foundation. And I really think we need good secondary works out there. The book is tough. And so far, what I've seen with the Untold story, it's just been a real blessing. People that don't know the Urantia book, they're not even bothered with the words Urantia book on the front. They just start reading it and looking at the pictures, and then they read some more. So I hope we all take what Julian said and do more of it. And part 1, part 2, and part 3, let's have some great secondary works, because you just can't, as we all know, give this big, thick book to people. When I first met Geoff, I tried to convince him to do more with Urantia Foundation. And he said, no, I'm not really so interested in spreading the book. I'm really interested in spreading the teachings. So we have a job to do. Certainly at Urantia Foundation, our mission is to actually get the book out there, but it's also to get the teachings out there. So for all of you, that are encouraged to do something, do a beautiful secondary work, spend the time to do the best you can and get it out there, because it makes life easier for people.
And what I heard Julian say, Mo, was make your life a book based on the life and teachings of Jesus. That is the primary directive. So Geoff, as proud as you are to be second generation, we have a third generation student of the book, John Hales, whose grandfather embraced this book, whose father was a trustee for many, many years, and John has carried on that tradition. John, you have a question or comment?
I was just gonna share with you that I have gifted 62 copies of the Untold story to my church family, and I've sent copies of the thank you notes to Mo, and without exception, they are so impressed with the book, with the artwork, and it's opened up all sorts of opportunities to, just to share. So
Beautiful.
it's a wonderful tool. If you want to reach those of you who are involved with your Urantia community, it's just a wonderful tool.
Well, and John, you are a prime example of Chris's fourth circle, which is getting involved with local religious communities. And you keep doing that. And thank you so much, John, for your years and years of service. So next we have Marvin.
We're in this situation, and the situation's a very, very powerful set of teaching moments. People are in a very tough place, many of them. And just in keeping with all of our larger endeavors, just to keep in mind, we come into contact with a person, they're the person in front of us, and they may be struggling or in need. And those are tremendous opportunities to just love a human being and unfold the gifts that we've gotten from this revelation in a living relationship. and just to stay attentive to those opportunities. You know, in addition to the larger things we prosecute, you know, who is this amazing sister or brother in front of us, and how can I love them more and minister to them, and to involve the Spirit in that endeavor, you know, involve Jesus' Spirit of truth and the inspiration of our indwelling Father, and just love. So just a plug for that.
Thank you, Marvin. And Louise.
Thank you, Gard. Rather than a question, it's really a reflection. I think we're going to have a number of truth seekers that might be new or curious about the Urantia book that will be watching us on Facebook on recordings. And I would like to invite an opportunity for our presidents to share a word with those that might not be already a well-embedded part of our family and might want to hear a little bit about the message to those that might be newcomers or interested in becoming part of this community.
We'll let Geoff go first.
Greetings out there, Facebook friends. If you're new to the Urantia book, it's hard to introduce it in 10 seconds, but it's a symphony of the cosmos and it's a revelation of God. And I encourage you to explore it. You can explore it through study groups. You can explore it online. You can explore it on the Facebook forum that you're on right now. There's ways to connect with people in your local community. There's tools to understand concepts that are new or foreign. So don't give up, and find me on Facebook and message me. And I'd love to spend time getting to know you personally.
Geoff, beautiful. Thank you. Chris.
I like to say that the Urantia book is about a personal relationship with God that propels a person into service. And if you're interested in having a personal relationship with God, or rather exploring the personal relationship with God that you already have, then it's a wonderful book to read, and I recommend it. Now I'm misquoting Gard, who I think was misquoting one of the Sadlers when we said the Urantia book is the best half-read book in the world, something like that. Most people will read a few papers or read half of it or read 2/3 of it. And I've embraced that. I love that people have read some of the Urantia book and will go back and read it again without necessarily trying to read it like a novel, but instead will embrace it for the tools that it is. It's each paper is a tool.
Beautiful, Chris. Thank you. And Mo.
If you want to love God more and know about God, the Urantia book is the best. And if you want to find your place in the universe, where you go after you die, what's your purpose in life, how you relate to all those worlds up there that you really don't know what's going on, read the Urantia book. And if you want to be a better person, the Urantia book has so many pathways to being a better person. And for all of us, we need to love and be loved. And the message of this book is a message of love.
Thank you, Mo. So this Urantia-thon is closing, and I would like to ask the maestro, Chris, if we could take 2 minutes to have a silent moment to just shout out in our inward souls, inwardly, to the angels, to the thought adjuster, to all of those beings who are part of this planetary revolution, revelation, evolution. And so is that okay, Chris, if we take 2 minutes of silence?
We've got another 23.5 hours.
Okay. All right.
I think so, right? It is possible. It is possible that after 3 minutes it will close. If not, we have indeed 23 hours and a half left.
And as Antonio says, live, laugh, and love if it does close off. So let's just close our eyes And let's take this moment as a community to worship our Heavenly Father and all that is real. So our Heavenly Father and divine and gracious Mother, we close this time of inspiration. We ask for your inspiration, and in exchange, we promise our perspiration on behalf of the angels, on behalf of you and the Trinity. We promise to dedicate the remaining days and months and years of our life to proving that love is the greatest of all realities. We pray that you would take us, heal us, and transform us, that we might be instruments of a new era of light and life on this planet. And we ask for your blessing, your healing, your guidance upon all those who suffer, especially the victims of this terrible, terrible disease. And we ask that out of this disease, something new might emerge, a new butterfly of truth, beauty, and goodness, a new revelation of love to the peoples of this planet. In the name of our most gracious and most wonderful Creator Son, Michael of Nebadon, Jesus of Nazareth, we give you thanks, and we all say amen.